Okay, you may be seated. All right. I'll call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sargent Electric calls Thomas Frank.
Would you like to raise your right hand and be sworn? You solemnly swear affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do, yes, sir.
Please be seated. Okay.
Your Honor, are you ready?
Yes, you are.
Mr. Frank, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Frank. Good morning, Mr. Frank. As you know, I'm Charlie Kelly. I represent Sargent Electric. And could you state your full name for the record?
Thomas Stafford.
And how old are you?
I'm 57 years.
And are you employed?
I am employed by LakeCo.
And I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you, but yeah. Okay, so you're employed by LakeCo Electric, and what's your job?
I'm the operations manager
Operations manager?
for the Concord office, yes, sir.
Okay. And did you work for Sargent Electric?
I did.
And what was your job at Sargent Electric?
I was general manager and vice president of the East Chicago office.
And in that position, were you in charge of operations?
I was, yes, sir.
Your two positions now at MJ Electric and Sargent Electric are similar, correct?
They're similar, but my duties at MJ are quite what they were at Sargent.
They're not as extensive,
They're not as expensive.
but at both facilities, though, you were and now are focused on operations, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Frank, how long did you work at Sargent Electric?
I was at Sargent Electric 24 plus years.
So you would have started roughly
1990.
And were you involved with operations the whole time you were there?
I was in the field. I was hired to be a general foreman, superintendent. I went out of town to run labor and as a job manager. I was in and out of town for about 14 years, 13 years.
And Mr. Frank, while you were at Sargent, and now I'm thinking about the recent history at Sargent, one of your hats that you wore was chief estimator, correct?
I was in charge of the estimating, yes, sir, after the chief estimator retired on the driver.
At some point in time, around October 1, 2013, Sargent named a new president, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's Mr. Guest, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Guest is in the courtroom, of course, correct?
Affirmative.
And Mr. Guest began making changes with which he didn't necessarily agree, correct?
Somewhat, yes.
He changed policies relating to vacation time, correct?
That was one of the ones we did.
You didn't agree with that, right?
I did, yes, sir.
And you didn't agree with respect to changes to holiday pay, correct?
That's correct.
And you didn't agree with him with respect to any of the new computer system, correct?
When you say computer system, what do you mean, sir?
Actually implementing the AccuBid system.
Well, the new software system, no, sir. I was the advocate. AccuBid is a position that's before me. I proposed that to Mr. D a year prior, as Mr. Prostate as well. We were proponents of it. I just disagreed with Mr. Guest's implementation of the system. I thought it needed to be phased in, not brought in abruptly and made everyone to have a drop-in date without having a chance to get themselves acclimated.
Right. You told me in your deposition that you were concerned about the implementation because Congress, correct? given your many years as sergeant?
I don't believe I said that to you, sir. What I said was I was concerned about the communication, and I also was concerned when he came in that we didn't have a meeting as far as to find out what his mission was, where we were going, what the team was going to do, what was our goals, etc. I never mentioned lack of respect, sir.
Right. And you told me, right, that when you first met with Mr. Guest after he became president, that you thought it would have been appropriate if you would have been sitting and asking you questions about the dynamics of the Chicago office, right?
Well, I did, yes, sir. The Chicago office was completely different than the other two sergeant offices, yes, sir.
And that wasn't occurring, right?
Not at that time, no, sir.
In fact, you felt that Mr. Guest had insulted you or Mr. Voss on a couple of occasions, right?
I never said the word assault, no. What I said, if I recall correctly, I said that when he came to meet with me and we discussed the first time, he had mentioned to me out of the blue that he was told he would have troubles with Mr. Voss. I thought that was odd. And I told him, I believe I told you that when he said that they were going to implement the AccuBid, when he left, he looked at me and said, oh, we don't need 10 keys. And that was in reference that I had suggested to sergeant executives prior to his arrival that we needed 10 individual keys to access the system when we implemented it. I still believe that was true due to the off-site operations areas that we had with the lack of high-speed internet.
Well, let's unpackage that a little bit. Now we're talking about AccuBid, correct?
Yes, sir, that's what you mentioned, correct?
Well, again, Mr. Graham, I did mention that. And I just want to make sure you were in the same spot. We're talking about AccuBid after that answer, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what we're referring to, right?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned something called a key, right?
Yes, sir.
And a key is a code, is a way to get into the AccuBid system to move rates, correct?
Well, it allows you access to utilize the AccuBid system. It's once you load the software on your machine, you need this. It's a USB, inserted in USB, they call it a key, and it's like a little flash drive or whatnot, and that allows you access to utilize the system. Yes, sir.
And the effort was to reduce the number of those USB devices acting as keys, to reduce the number of people who would have access to the AccuBid system, to change rates, correct?
No, you couldn't change it, right? You needed, excuse me. I guess I'm not following what you're saying. What I said you needed the different keys for so that the different sites could access the AccuBid software.
Right. And there was an attempt that you felt insulted by when you were told they were going to reduce the number of keys to that AccuBid system so fewer people, rather than more, had the ability to make changes or amend in any way the estimation that was going on in the AccuBid system, correct?
No, that's not correct. What I said was you need the key to have access to it. What I was trying to explain was the way the dynamic of the sergeant office was. We had our office, and we had a off-site compound at BP/Archway. That was the only place that had a T1 line that had high-speed internet. The other areas, NIPSCO, U.S. Steel, and the other job sites, the house accounts, they didn't have high-speed X. They didn't have high-speed internet, so they wouldn't be able to use one common key, just one, what they wanted to use in Pittsburgh, just have one key and you had to get on the internet to use it, or excuse me, on the sergeant that to use it.
Let's cut through this and read what you actually said to me in your deposition. Okay, Mr. Frank?
Yes, sir.
And if you look at page 33, line 25, may I approach, Your Honor, and show you?
Yes, you may.
page 33, line 25, is an answer from Mr. Frank that says, we were talking about the dynamic of the East Chicago office, and we talked about changing the estimating to AccuBid. And Mr. Guest left my office that day and said, and we're going to change to AccuBid. But he looked at me and he said, but we don't need 10 keys. And I thought that was insulting to me. Do you now remember that, Mr. Frank?
Now that you read it,
Mr. I'm sorry, Your Honor, can you please ask Mr. Kelly to read the rest of his answer? He stopped at his screen.
You can do it then.
I think it's proper, he's checking to impeach, and I think you have to get the full question, the full answer, not just bits and pieces of an answer.
I asked him a straight question, Your Honor, about insulting. He told me he never said that. I'm refreshing his memory now that he did say that, and I don't know what else I need to do.
You can pull it out on cross.
It's fine.
Okay.
So now you remember the word insulting, right? And you used it, Mr. Frame, right?
Yes, sir.
And you meant it, Mr. Frame, right?
I believe so.
And you felt insulted by Mr. Guest, right, Mr. Frame?
Yes, sir.
And within a month of that meeting, in November of 2013, you and Mr. Ross, you already started making plans about leaving Sargent, correct? Remember that? Tell me that. By November, you and Mr. Ross started talking about leaving, correct?
Correct.
And those talks continued right straight through into late November around Thanksgiving, still talking about leaving Sargent, correct?
Correct.
And by October 19th, Mr. Frame, you started downloading and revising your resume, correct?
Yeah.
Well, let's check on that then, too. Mr. Frame, I'll help you here as we get started.
Yes.
Show Mr. Frame the third binder. That's the one that has Exhibit 101 in it. Sure. And, Your Honor, if I may, I would propose the same setup we had just showed two attachments, tape A and L, that will be relevant. Frank, there is the way this is working with the binders is on the front of the binder, if you look at these, there will be numbers for exhibits. And I'll ask you if you'll turn to a tab, which is an exhibit, and proceed to putting two tabs. Once you get to exhibit 101, and I'll wait for you to do this, you'll need to put a tab on attachment A, and you'll need to put a tab on attachment L. we can hopefully move along more quickly and make sure that we're both thinking about the same things here this morning. I wanted to put before you Exhibit 101. Do you have that open, Mr. Frank?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And for the record again, that's a report, a reclamier report, data security experts, supplemental certified forensic analysis. The reclamier company was the company retained by Sargent to review the data that went in and out of the Sargent computers in connection with the departures of Mr. Ross, Mr. Frank, Mr. Simmons, Mr. Manis, Mr. Cabela, Mr. Alderson, Mr. Justin, Mr. Paulson, and others. Now, if you look at me for a second, now, as in Larry, Mr. Frank, are you there?
Yes, sir.
You recall that you had a laptop in Sargent, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it was assigned to you, correct? And you used it, correct? And it had a password, correct? You had to use the password in order to access your computer in order to review documents in that computer, correct? If you look at Exhibit L for a second and turn to page 2 of 6. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
What we're looking at, Mr. Frank, is a list of the most recently used documents, the last 50 documents that you pulled up on your computer. And if you look with me at Exhibit 44, or Item 44, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
There are two items back to back, 43 and 44. There it says Thomas F. Frank resume, Tuesday, November 19th, 150923. And at item 44, it says Thomas S. Frank resume, Tuesday, 9/15 at 1509. You see that? And just help you confirm that by November 19th, you were calling up and looking at your resume in connection with your thoughts about departing from Sargent Electric?
I was. Yeah, I called it resume up. Yes, sir.
Now, with respect to your disagreements and feeling insulted by Mr. Guest, at a certain point, those disagreements reached a boiling point, didn't they? I'll help you. On December 18th, you had a major dispute with Mr. Guest, right? And related, I'm sorry.
No, I would say he had a major dispute. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, then there was a major dispute. There was a dispute between you and Mr. Guest on December 18th, right?
Yes, sir, there was.
And it related to your practice of sending out steaks to customers at Christmas time, right?
Yes, sir, it was.
And you were so disturbed by that exchange that the same day you called someone named Harry Burchell, told him you were unhappy and getting ready to leave Sargent Electric, right?
I called Harry Burchell. We talked about some of the situations that were going on. That was one of the topics, yes, sir.
And it was on the very same day, right?
There were about it may have been on that day.
As far as you know, the same day you had this dispute with Mr. Guest, you called Harry Burchell about looking for a new job, right?
I called Harry to talk to him about some of the issues that were going on, yes, sir.
And Mr. Burchell just happens to be the person who hired you at Sargent Electric, right?
He is, yes, sir.
And Mr. Burchell had been terminated from Sargent Electric, correct?
He had been at the bankruptcy when they eliminated a 5 or 6 vice president positions, yes, sir.
And you had known Harry Burchell for years, right?
He hired me. I knew him since the 90s, yes, sir.
And Harry Burchell was working at a company called Caverner, right?
He He was working there as on and off as a consultant, yes, sir.
Okay, we've had some names thrown around the courtroom here in the last couple of days. Is Commermer the company that, well, what's its current name?
Currently, they were acquired by Matrix.
Matrix. Okay. And Matrix is one of the companies that you consider joining, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. As it relates to Mr. Rochelle, Mr. Rochelle told you that he had contacts at MJ Electric, right?
He had told me he had known I was charged with MJ Electric, and he knew some people there, so they were doing this out there. He wanted, if I wanted me to call and see if he had something with them, I'd talk to him, yes, sir.
And with respect to Mr. Rochelle, he did in fact make that connection to you, right?
Yes, sir.
And by December, you made that contact with Mr. Rochelle, and you were also considering departure for Matrix, right?
What was the date, sir?
December.
I was working on it, yes, sir.
And with respect to Matrix, Matrix is what?
Well, at the time I worked for North American Construction, it was a multi-100 billions of dollar a year company. They were being acquired, the construction division being acquired by Matrix, and they became Matrix North American Construction. They were a large general contractor, and they had a vision to start an electrical division to be a complete contractor off of one-stop shopping.
And at first, Mr. Frank is correct, right? That when you were talking with Mr. Rochelle about moving to Matrix, it was just you, right? One person.
I didn't talk to Mr. Rochelle about going to Matrix.
Okay.
He wasn't involved with me going to make Matrix at the time, no, sir. When you are correct, it was just myself.
Who were you talking to at Matrix?
I was talking to the Vice President of Operations, Homer Gatlin, and then later to the Executive Vice President, Jim Farrell.
Okay. Let's just focus on that then. With respect to these conversations with Mr. Gatlin
Yes, sir.
at Matrix, at first it was just one person, right? You were considering just you, Thomas Scott Frame, moving to Matrix, right?
Correct. Just to look to see if there were any opportunities there, yes.
No team, no boss, just you, right?
It was the goal there was the discussion there was they wanted to start an electrical division, so they would have me join and then bring people on and start a division. Yes,
And
we do the electrical work. Yes.
Right. And with respect to Matrix, Matrix was hoping to have you as an employee inside Matrix with an electrical division, right?
Correct.
You weren't starting up a new company. You weren't going to open a new office for Matrix, right?
That's correct.
And then the conversation moved to you and Mr. Voss possibly both changing or joining Matrix, right?
That's correct.
It still is an electrical division within Matrix, not starting up a new company that you two would oversee and run, right?
Only the division, electrical division, yes, sir.
Right, so you'd be employees of Matrix.
Correct.
Now, and with respect to this timeline, continue moving along. In January, there came a time when you met with Mr. Voss in his office, correct?
Yes, sir, we met every day.
And you met with Mr. Voss on January 14th to review the business analysis, right?
I looked at it, yes, sir.
And that was in advance of the meeting with MJ Electric that night, right?
That was our first, we had dinner with them that night, yes, sir.
And Mr. Frank, if you now will move to hearing exhibit, it says 1-50. I'd like you to take a look at tab number 1. Right there. And Frank, look at the business analysis for Northwest Indiana electrical construction. You see that? You've seen this document before. And you told me you'd actually seen this document as early as January 14th. You met with Mr. Ross, correct? Yes. And you went through this document with Mr. Ross, right? Yes, sir. And with respect to you said that you hadn't read this, correct? Yes, sir. And you had also reviewed, among other sections, a section that related to the page that lists business analysis, Northwest Indiana electrical construction. You see that page? It says personnel. Your Honor, I'll find that page. There are 2 business analysis pages, and there is a projected revenue page, and there is a business analysis capital investment summary. Then there is a page that says business analysis personnel. You read that page? Mm-hmm. And Mr. Voss, I'm sorry, Mr. Kramer, you seen this before? Yes, sir. You discussed this page with Mr. Kramer, correct? With Mr. Voss. Mr. Voss, yeah, I'm sorry. With Mr. Voss. Right? Yes, sir. And you actually discussed people who you were contemplating as estimators and project managers, right? You did, yes, sir. And you told me at your deposition that among the people... You have a page, counsel, so I can read along with you? You certainly can. This testimony, as you probably recall, it starts at page 66. And continues through page 68. And Mr. Frank, that you recall that among the people that you and Mr. Voss were anticipating would be estimators, project managers, and talked about that day, included Mr. Simmons, correct? Correct. And Mr. Manis, correct? Correct. And Mr. Albertson, correct? Correct. And Mr. Schuman, correct? Correct. And Mr. Kip DeBella, correct? Correct. And Mr. Paul Schuman, correct? And it's the case, is it not, that each of those individuals is now working at JLF, right?
That's correct. And excuse me, but I also told you that we looked at someone, talked about some other names too. Guys from me, Doug Sling from M4 Hire, etc. Because we knew if these guys wouldn't follow, that we could get someone to come with us.
And with respect to that, the other names, you went up to Iron Mountain on February 17th after you were hired, right?
Yes, sir.
And in order to patch in a few dates here, you had a meeting on January 14th with MJ Electric, right?
Yes, sir.
By January 23rd, you had a second meeting, which was during the day, right?
Yes, sir.
Around noontime, there was a lunch meeting with MJ Electric officials, executives at the Four Seasons Hotel in Chicago, right?
Yes, sir.
The very next day, and at that point, you're still a Sargent Electric executive, right?
Yes, sir.
You and Mr. Voss were the top two executives in the Sargent Electric office, right?
Yes, sir.
Spending the day, midday, with a meeting, 2-hour meeting, with MJ executives on the 23rd, correct?
Correct.
Followed up by the very next day, January 24th, with oral offers from MJ Electric, right?
I believe it might have been, we discussed that on Saturday on 25th.
Okay, so on the 24th to the 25th, within a day or two, you had an oral offer of employment from MJ Electric, correct?
We started discussing it, yes, sir.
So you moved within 10 or 11 days from a conversation about that came on the heels of you and Mr. Voss looking at the business analysis and thinking, what could you do to start a company, to having an oral offer from MJ Electric, correct?
Correct.
And then within 2 days of that, you had a draft offer letter, January 27th, right?
Yes, sir.
And then the next day, you got a formal offer letter, January 28th, right?
Yes, sir.
And 2 days after that, January 30, you had a formal employment agreement with MJ Electric because you signed the employment agreement with MJ, correct?
Correct.
And then following that, you didn't depart Sargent, right?
No, sir.
You stayed there, right?
I stayed on the Monday, and then, which was the 3rd. On the 4th, I went to the Northwest Indiana Building Trades and did all the yearly Sargent National Maintenance Agreement pre-job, which were about 16. So I did that to fulfill my obligations. And then that night I left Wednesday and Thursday, Friday, I was on vacation.
Yeah.
I came back Sunday, Monday morning, I came here and resigned. Yes, sir.
Right. And so you took vacation on Sargent. You were still a Sargent employee, even though you were also a signed up MJ Electric employee. And you went on vacation on the night of the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, and came back on Monday and quit, right?
Yes, sir.
That's the chronology, right?
Yes, sir.
And then, after that, one of the first things you did after you quit was you went into you actually stopped at a trailer, right? The ArcelorMittal trailer. Do you remember doing this?
I did, yes, sir.
And you actually went to an ArcelorMittal trailer after quitting your job at Sargent Electric on February 10th. Oh, by the way, you quit your job unannounced, right? No advance warning to Sargent, right?
No, I stopped.
Right. No, right?
Correct.
You quit that day, February 10th.
Correct.
And you were out the door by 10:30 that day, right?
That morning, I sent them an email, and I was contacted by the CFO, Beth Lawrence. I talked to her, and then I was contacted by Mr. Guest and talked to him.
And the first stop you made after you left Sargent was the trailer, right?
I did. I went out there I had some long-term relationships with some guys that I had spent many years on the road jobs with. I'd been to the kids' weddings, etc. So I went out there to say goodbye to them. That's what I did.
Right. And you went out there to say goodbye to two of the project manager estimators you ultimately hired, right? Paul Schumann and Jim Simmons, right? They were in that trailer along with an individual named Doug Hansen, right?
Hansen was out there.
And on that very same day, one of the things you said to Mr. Schumann was, here's where I'm going, MJ Electric, and here's my email address. How to get in touch with me, right?
I did, yes.
And you wanted him to know where you're going, right? So you told him.
Yes, sir.
And within seconds of that, he sent you an email on February 10th confirming he knew how to get in touch with you, right?
He did, yes, sir.
there was an email that you received that said hello, right?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Let's take a look at that email. Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
we have an exhibit chart here, and I think the right tab is 91. Is that right? No. Let's not be told that's not the right tab.
It is or isn't?
It's not, sir.
Okay.
We'll find it. We're off by one, Your Honor. It's actually exhibit 90.
Okay.
Sorry for the delay. Thanks a lot.
There it is, sir.
Mr. Frank, and if you look at exhibit 90, we actually just stopped for a second to find this to make sure I had the right date. That's February 10th, and there's an email sent to you by Paul Schumann on February 10th at 12:33 p.m., right?
Yes, sir.
And you respond a couple hours later to his subject hello by saying hello Paul, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, with respect to this timeline, and this will tie into who you hired, on February 11th, well, actually, on February 10th, you began work for MJ, right?
I left and I went back to my house. So
You said yes?
I guess you could say I did, yes, sir.
Yeah, on the very same day. And 1 week later, you then were up in Iron Mountain, right?
I want to say so.
Right, you're up there with Mr. Gloss, right? Doing orientation, right?
Correct.
And you wanted to hire project manager estimators, right?
Correct.
You did a series of interviews up there with Mr. Manis, Mr. Bella, Mr. Simmons, Mr. Alverson, and Mr. Paul Schumann, right? Over the phone?
Yes, sir.
Each lasted about 10 to 15 minutes, right?
15 to 20 minutes, I believe.
Each of them was hired on the same day.
No, I think 3 of them were on Monday and 1 of them was maybe on Tuesday.
Okay, so within a day or two of the interview, that group was hired, right? You didn't interview anybody from higher electric, right?
Nobody can hire closer interviews, so no, sir.
You didn't hire anybody that day from me, right?
No, sir.
Didn't hire anybody that day from Continental, right?
No, sir.
Didn't hire anybody else besides Sargent employees that day, right?
Correct.
There was never any discussion about holding up the process to try to get an entire group of applicants, maybe 20, 30, 40. You went right straight ahead and hired the same team that worked for you at Sargent Electric, correct?
That's correct.
Each of them worked for you as a project manager estimator, right?
In a similar role, yes, sir. Not all of them. Mr. Cabela wasn't an estimator.
They were, certainly the estimators reported to you as the chief estimator, right?
Yes.
So you had your team hired, right?
I had some of the guys, yes, sir.
You actually refer to them as your guys, right?
I don't remember referring to my guys, but we were all a team, yes, sir.
Go back on the timeline then for a second. Let's talk about your team, your guys. So I'm going to show you a document that refers to them. With respect to the timeline, and this is just before you left. Do you also remember, let's pick it back up on January 30th. On January 30th, you're hired, you signed up, you're an MJ employee, right? You signed an employment contract.
I signed an agreement to come to work on this.
And while you signed an employment agreement on February 3rd, you recall, do you not, that the executive vice president of MJ Electric came to East Chicago to meet you and Mr. Boss to scout locations for your office, right?
Yes, sir.
And you decided to take the middle of the day for that effort, right?
We went in the afternoon, yes, sir.
From 2 to 4, right? Above there, yes, fire employed by Sargent Electric, right?
Yes, sir.
And in addition, you had a meeting that continued through dinner with Mr. Rockwell, right?
Correct.
And at that dinner, you actually discussed issues including you hiring project manager estimators to fill out the list of people you wanted to have in your startup company, right?
I believe we did, yes, sir.
Your estimators, right?
Yes, sir.
You told Mr. Rockwell who you had in mind, right?
I believe I did.
You actually identified them by name, right?
I'm sure I did, yes.
And it's the same list that you just recited for the court, right?
I believe so, yes.
And on that day, you say, right, that these individuals were hired during the week of February 17th, right?
Yes, sir, that's what we're
Interviews occurred somewhere around 18, 19, as best you know?
17 and 18.
That early. Okay, good. 17th, 18th. And so you talked with Mr. Rockwell about that group, about that team, and you're talking about more, right? You're also talking about your enticements with him, aren't you?
I believe so, yes, sir.
And that word enticement is a word that shows up in your business analysis, right?
It's in the business analysis, it wasn't my business analysis.
I see. Mr. Boss's business analysis that he shared with you, right?
Yes, sir.
Which at that point was the only business analysis that existed with respect to starting a company in Northwest Indiana to compete with Sargent Electric, right?
I believe so, yes, sir.
A business analysis being created at Sargent on Sargent time when you're being paid by Sargent in order to figure out how to compete with Sargent, correct?
The objection is to foundation, Your Honor.
Your Honor, you said yes, and that's a direct question. I don't know how else to ask it.
No, I would actually Mr. Kelly stopped badgering the witness. You know, no one here on either side needs to be badgered and yelled at. Everyone has questions, can ask his questions and give his answers, but the constant peppering and badgering, there's no place in this hearing for that.
Well, I apologize, Your Honor, if it's badgering. I'm not trying to
I didn't perceive it as badgering.
I view this as a really important matter, Your Honor, and I'm sorry if in my cross that's being expressed, the passion for it, but that's the way I feel. I'll try to tone it down if I'm offending anybody.
I certainly agree it's a very important matter. I want the court to hear from you.
Okay.
So, given the interruption from Mr. Saldinger, I'm assuming that objection is overruled, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, the point here, Mr. Crane, is to pick back up where we left off. What I'd like to do is look at a couple of these different business analyses, because think you were here yesterday. You saw and heard Mr. Ross testify, right?
Yes, sir.
And you saw and heard Mr. Ross say that he had misnamed his business analysis as Go Final Review, right? And he did that, and you were doing that in order to cover your tracks, right? So Sargent didn't know that you had a business analysis sitting in their computer system that you were going to use to compete against Sargent, right?
I wasn't involved in that, so
You think that's appropriate conduct, Mr. Frank?
again, I can't comment on what Mr. Ross is.
As far as you're concerned, that's appropriate conduct.
Judge, Your Honor, estimates.
So, if you look at the binder that lists the exhibits, Your Honor, on this one, I'm entering exhibit 91 through 130. Do you have the right binder?
I do. What happened?
I was going to ask you to look, if you would, at exhibit 98. Would be tab 98.
Yes, sir.
And there you'll see Sargent 896. It says Go Final Review. Is this one of the versions of the business analysis you read?
I read one of these. I don't know if this is the one. I don't know that I picked up where it said Go Final Review, Mr. Kelly.
Okay. Well, since we're open to this one, you see the page there, 900, that references enticement.
I do.
And if you look back with me for a second at exhibit number 1. You have exhibit number 1?
I do.
And exhibit number 1, Your Honor, here I'm turning to a page. As we mentioned, there were the business analysis here, there were 2 pages that had text, and then there is a page that says business analysis, projected revenue versus startup. You see that, Mr. Frank? That page? So,
Yes, sir.
to recap, we're at exhibit 1. You got that, right?
I do.
And exhibit 1, I believe, has 2 pages that say business analysis on it, right? And then there's a page, 3rd page. Unfortunately, I have to do it this way because I don't see the page going on. There's a page that says business analysis, Northwest Indiana Electrical Construction Team, projected revenue versus startup.
Yes, sir.
In the upper left-hand corner. And then I'm trying to get you back to the right page now. So I want you to, the next page says capital investment, and the page I want you to land on says personnel. And so, Your Honor, I think that's like 3 charts back. Okay. So I apologize, we're all in the same spot. Now, Mr. Frank, have you seen this page before?
Yes.
And here, there's the word enticement, right?
Yes.
And there is actually, as enticements for the estimator project managers that you discussed on January 14th, you had $7,500 payments that you were anticipating making to them, correct?
Correct.
And now, tying the business plan into your meeting with Mr. Rockwell, on February 3rd, at this meeting, where you discussed your project managers and estimators who you'd like to retain, you talked about enticements, right?
I believe we still discussed this.
You discussed making $7,500 payments to each one of them, correct?
Yes.
And you told Mr. Rockwell that you thought you'd need trucks to get them to come, right?
Yes.
And you told Mr. Rockwell that you thought you'd have to have some vacation pay plugged in there, correct?
Correct.
You also told him you thought you'd have to have some holiday pay plugged in there to get your team, right?
Correct.
And that was on February 3rd, right? And on February 4th, all those enticements had already been approved by management at MJ Electric, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, let's take a look. We're looking at our chart, Your Honor, to get the right document. I'm sorry for the delay. I believe, Your Honor, it's going to be, and Mr. Frank, in binder number 1. And I believe that it is tab 8. Your Honor, I apologize for that. It's actually tab 10. Now, Mr. Frank, we're looking at an exhibit that I showed you at your deposition, and this is from the very top email is from Bill Nagy. You see that?
I do, yes, sir.
And Bill Nagy is the Vice President of MJ Electric, correct?
That's correct.
And Bill Nagy is in this courtroom today as the representative of MJ Electric, right?
Correct.
And Bill Nagy is sending this email to Tony Brockwell, right?
Yes.
Who is the Executive Vice President of MJ Electric, right?
Correct.
And to Steve Farrar, who's the Director of Human Resources at MJ Electric, right?
Right.
And this email was being sent on Tuesday, February 4th, 2014 at 8:10 a.m., right?
Yes, that's what it says, yes, sir.
Just the night before, February 3rd, you're having dinner with Mr. Brockwell talking about the enticements that include trucks and a signing bonus, right?
Yes.
And by the next morning, as this email suggests, the trucks were ordered, and the Vice President at MJ is good with a signing bonus, right?
Yes, sir, that's what it says.
And were you advised on February 4th that it was a go, that your team was going to get the enticements that you wanted them to have?
Yes, sir, I was copied here, I see that.
So you knew by February 4th, and Mr. Frank, let's think about this timeline. I think you just told the court that interviews with these people, interviews with your team, didn't even occur until February 17th, right?
That's correct.
The week you were in Iron Mountain, right?
That's correct.
So MJ Electric And you, as a Sargent employee, although by that time signed up as an MJ Electric employee, had already set in place the payments that were going to go to a team you hadn't even interviewed, right?
Yes, the trucks were ordered and the phones were completed.
2 weeks before an interview starts. Right?
According to this date, yes.
Now, let's go back, if we can, to this business analysis, and let's look at a different section. So I can pick up a question along the way, but Your Honor, what I'd like to do is I'd like to precede this line of questioning with a foundational question for Mr. Frank. I'd like to look at Exhibit 2, the version that was from Luke Voss. Do you have it, Your Honor? Mr. Frank, if you have it.
I do.
And now, Mr. Frank, we're looking at Exhibit 2 for the record. Fortunately, this one has the base lettering, so what you should have before you is MJ 779 through MJ 789. Do you have that?
Yes.
And you've seen this document before too, right?
Yes.
And I showed this to you at your deposition, right?
Yes.
And what this reflects is an email going from Luke Voss to Bill Nagy, who, as we said, is in the courtroom right now, Tony Broccolo, who we discussed and was in the courtroom yesterday, and Tom Frame, right?
Yes.
This says on February 5th, it's being delivered to you at Sargent, right?
Yes, it does.
Did you receive this document?
I believe I did.
And did you open the attachments?
I don't know if I did or not, to be honest with you. February 5th, I was in Florida. I probably attempted to.
Did you have any problem opening these attachments?
I don't know that I did.
Okay. With respect to this document, what we also see is a list on MJ 783. I'd like to look at that page, Your Honor. This page is the business analysis, Northwest Indiana Electrical Construction Team, projected revenue versus startup. Do you have that page, Mr. Frank?
I do.
And you've seen that page before, right?
Yes.
And BP Whiting was a major customer of Sargent Electric while you were there, right?
Correct.
And so was USS.
Yes.
And so was ArcelorMittal.
Yes.
And so was NIPSCO.
Yes.
And so were a whole host of commercial customers, right?
Correct.
You were told by MJ Electric that it was perfectly fine for you to download your business contacts and take them with you as you left Sargent, right?
That's correct.
And you did that, right?
I made a copy of it, yes, sir.
And you still have that copy, right?
I do.
And you're using that copy right now at MJ Electric, right?
I am.
And with respect to those contacts, many of those were developed over your years at Sargent Electric, right?
Many more, yes, sir.
And with respect to BP White, I asked you these questions in your deposition. MJ Electric didn't provide you with a single contact at BP White, right?
That's correct.
And they didn't provide you with a single contact at USS, right?
That's correct.
And they didn't provide you with a single contact at ArcelorMittal, right?
That's correct.
And they didn't provide you with a single contact at NIPSCO, right?
They were already on the NIPSCO Reba website. They were already approved there.
Let's just stop at NIPSCO for a second. There are two ways to do business for and with NIPSCO, right?
As far as explaining it, sir?
Yeah, I'll explain. With respect to NIPSCO, there's the outside guys, the electricians who work on transmission and distribution lines, right?
That's one of them, yes, sir?
And that's the work that MJ Electric has historically done, right?
Correct.
Then there are the inside guys, the electricians who work inside the plant itself, right?
In the generating stations, yes, sir.
Yeah. And can you tell me a single contact that has been provided to you by MJ Electric relating to the kind of work that Sargent does, which is inside the fence, inside the power generation plants?
No.
We had this conversation with Mr. Gloss just minutes ago. What we're looking at here in exhibit number 2 is a column that says historic recurring revenue, right?
I see that, yes, sir.
And MJ Electric had not only no contacts, they had no business among this group of your key core customers at Sargent Electric when MJ started talking to you, right?
Correct.
So certainly the historic recurring revenue isn't that MJ, right?
Correct.
It's Sargent's that we're talking about, right?
Yes, sir.
And those historic recurring revenues are reflected in this document. And at the very last page, MJ 789, right?
That's what it states, yes, sir.
This is confidential information, if you understand it, in connection with the employee handbook that you had while you were at Sargent Electric, right?
It appears, but this is like when I was talking in the deposition. I would certainly have to question this commercial gross margin percent at 21.25%. I started a commercial division there, and I don't think we ever attained this amount of margin. But
Well, I'm happy to have you question the 21.25, and if you want, I'll follow up on that and ask you questions about it. But my question was, is this Sargent information?
it appears to be, yes, sir.
And is this Sargent actual information?
I don't know if it's actual or not. I didn't do this, so I didn't gather it.
And do you have any reason to doubt that this was information provided by John Gordish at the request of Mr. Ross? You heard that testimony yesterday, right?
I did hear it. My only comment to this is these margins seem very high to me.
But let's look at the revenue. Do you doubt the revenue numbers?
Well, I don't think I doubt the revenue numbers, no, sir.
And the revenue numbers are confidential because they're the financial information of Sargent Electric, right?
Yes.
And you knew that when you were at Sargent Electric, right?
Yes.
Because the employee handbook tells you in section 2.1.6 that you, as an employee of Sargent, have a duty to protect Sargent's confidential financial information, right?
Yes.
And yet, this document, as we know, was being sent to MJ Electric while you're an employee of Sargent, right?
If that's what Mr. Ross testified to, I didn't get this to anybody.
And that would be a violation of your duties of loyalty to Sargent Electric, right?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Frank, let me talk for a second about some of your contacts. It's true, correct, that as soon as you arrived at MJ Electric on February 10th, during that first week you were working for MJ Electric, you started to contact your contacts as you had them at Sargent and places like ArcelorMittal.
Yes.
And you called people like Kevin Poland, right?
First I emailed Rocky Shaw.
Okay. Okay. So the first thing you did was you emailed Rocky Shaw.
Correct.
And who's Rocky Shaw at ArcelorMittal?
Rocky Shaw is the chief. He's the capital purchaser. He's the lead capital purchaser, manager of the capital procurement.
And is he a key person?
He is.
And why is he a key person?
He's the manager of the procurement division.
And being manager of the procurement division, you need to know him and know how to find him in order to try to secure electrical contracting work, right?
We used to get in touch with him, yes, sir.
Can you identify to the court right now any readily ascertainable spot, like a phone book or a listing on the ArcelorMittal website that says the key guy is Rocky Shaw at ArcelorMittal?
I don't think you can find that phone.
You can't find that anywhere else, can you?
I don't believe so.
And with respect to Mr. Poland, I think we referenced Mr. Poland. Who's Mr. Poland?
Mr. Poland is a capital buyer. He works for Mr. Shaw.
And and so does Mr. Poland actually report to Mr. Shaw?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. And what's Mr. Poland do?
He's a capital buyer.
But what's that mean?
He's in charge of certain capital projects that are out for bid, and also part of maintenance and repair. And there's numerous ones that work with them and for him.
And you knew Rocky, and you knew Mr. Poland, and MJ didn't, right?
I did know that, yes, sir.
And MJ didn't.
I don't think they did, no, sir.
They didn't tell you how to find them, right?
No.
And the same thing goes for Mr. Poland, right? That's not readily ascertainable information that he's the key guy in order to get electrical contracting work, right?
That's correct.
Now, and who else did you contact besides Mr. Poland and Mr. Shaw?
At ArcelorMittal.
Is there anybody else at ArcelorMittal you contacted?
I was contacted by Ron Klinger from ArcelorMittal. He called me. He's an engineer there. In fact, Sargent's doing 7 blast furnace right now as we speak. No, that would be about the extent of it.
Okay, and did you contact your contacts at BP?
I did contact a couple of people at BP, yes, sir.
And who did you contact at BP?
I talked to John Phillips.
Who's John Phillips?
John Phillips is a senior buyer project manager for BP.
He was a contact of yours at Sargent, right?
He goes, I know him a long time, yes, sir.
And did MJ Electric introduce Mr. Phillips to you?
No, they did not.
Did they tell you that he was a key contact at BP?
No, they did not.
And the same thing, that information about John Phillips being a key guy if you want to do electrical work at BP is not something you would just look in a phone book and find, right? And it's not readily ascertainable unless you know that, right?
No, not unless you're in the business, yes, sir.
Now, who else did you contact at BP? Well, when you say in the business, let's stop right there and make sure we put a point on this. Did MJ Electric come to you with any contacts in BP Whiting Refinery in Northwest Indiana?
No.
So when you say it's generally known in the business, MJ Electric didn't know it, right?
No, so what I meant by that is I know enough people that I could call different contractors, et cetera, and pretty much give them the phone number of anybody else.
But you're not suggesting that MJ Electric delivered that to you. You delivered that knowledge to, and those contacts to MJ Electric, right?
So I did not suggest that, no.
Yeah, you didn't mean to suggest that, right? No. Because MJ didn't deliver that to you. You delivered those contacts to MJ, right?
Correct.
And in addition to Mr. Phillips, who else did you contact at BP?
I believe, I don't know if I contacted Lance Deepline or Jim did, but
Who's Lance Deepline?
he's a purchaser for BP.
And that was a contact of yours at Sargent, right?
Correct.
Not delivered to you by MJ Electric, right?
Correct.
Delivered by you to MJ Electric, right?
Correct.
Not in a phone book and not in any readily ascertainable spot that you know of, right?
That'd be correct.
Who else did you contact at BP? Anyone?
At BP, probably contacted Joe Britta, who's a construction manager there. That would be about it.
Okay. Same drill, right? You delivered that contact, not MJ to you.
Correct.
Not readily ascertainable, right? Now, with respect to USS, did you make contacts at USS?
Reached out to Sam O'Wida. Yes, sir.
Sammer Oweda?
Correct.
And
He's purchasing.
he's purchasing? What's it mean he's purchasing? Why Sammer Oweda an important contact for you? Someone you reach out to?
He's in the capital procurement department.
So he's someone you have to come to if you want to get work, right?
Correct.
At USS, right?
That's correct.
You delivered that contact to MJ, not MJ delivering that to you, right?
That's correct.
Not readily ascertainable information, right?
That's correct.
Anybody else you contacted at USS?
No, sir.
What about NIPSCO? Did you call anybody at NIPSCO?
I did call some people in this law.
Who did you call at NIPSCO?
Janet Deschau, Steve Gondelak. I believe that's it.
Did you say Janet?
Janet Deschau.
How do you spell Deschau?
I believe it's D-E-S-C-H-O.
She was a contact of yours at Sargent.
She was.
You delivered that contact to MJ, not MJ to you, right?
Correct.
Not readily ascertainable, right?
Correct.
She's important if you need to get work, right?
She's one of the procurement division buyers, yes, sir.
And now there's a second person, John Gondelak, right?
No, it was Steve Gondelak.
Oh, I'm sorry. Steve Gondelak. Who's Steve Gondelak?
Saying he's a purchaser in the NIPSCO procurement department.
Sergeant contact you delivered to MJ, right? Not an MJ that you delivered, or they delivered to you, right?
That's correct.
Not readily ascertainable, right?
That's correct.
Somebody you need to know if you need to get business, right?
That's correct.
Who else did you contact?
Just various general contractors and mechanical contractors.
Who?
Great Court.
Who did you contact at Great Court? Who did you contact at Great Court?
I called Ted Greyhouse, who's in business development there. I called MC Industrial. I put a call in for Andy Valcotter. I called Morrison Construction. These just a host of general contractors and mechanical contractors out in this region.
And with respect to the general contractors working in this region, were those contacts you had?
They are, yes.
From Sargent, correct?
Yes, sir.
Delivered to MJ, correct?
That's correct.
MJ didn't deliver MJ didn't deliver those to you, correct?
No, they didn't.
Not readily ascertainable who to contact at those places? In order to
little easier there if you call their switchboard, you can ask for people, but yes.
Right. If you were a startup and you didn't know where to start, you wouldn't know who to call. You wouldn't know these particular individuals, right?
Yes.
And we just used an example. Can you explain for the court? Let's take another international steel company. We've talked about ArcelorMittal, which is an international steel company, right?
Yes.
And you heard of other international steel companies, Bao Steel in China? or POSCO in South Korea. You ever heard of those?
I have heard of those, yes.
Right. And do you know where to start? Where do you start to do electrical contracting work for Bow Steel or POSCO, if you were told? Okay, start, Mr. Frank.
I think that what I would do is I'd start looking in to see if I had any engineering contacts and start making phone calls and calling amongst the industry to see if anyone, or through the AIST, or see going through a lead like that to see if I can get a connection or somewhere to start.
Right.
Start doing some due diligence, yes, sir.
Right, and that's the normal trial and error that goes into trying to find contacts in a business where you don't otherwise have any contacts, right?
Correct. I think that's the advantage of hiring people with some experience.
Right, and that process that we're just talking about can take years, right, before you actually get in the door if you know no one. And Mr. Frank, Your Honor,
Yes.
may we extend courtesies to everyone, including you, if anybody wants a short break for the restroom or otherwise?
Well, it's almost noon. Want to break for lunch or?
Do you want to do the same thing we did yesterday until 12:15? I've got one line of questioning that I might be able to
Okay.
fit in that like a little package.
All right. You can do that.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
All rise. Only 5 to 10. He's our second year law student. He's an intern. This
That's what we're saying. I'm just warning you, that's what we're saying. You understand? Maybe you understand it from hospital systems. These pussies are big boys. Once he did that, he said, "We're conversations."
He's the man because he's not why he doesn't so much he doesn't know it's fun.
Justin. Nice to meet you. I'm a law student. Okay. Graduated 5 years ago. Nice. I was talking too. Oh, you're going there now? Yes, I'm finishing 2 hours right now. Okay, you like it? Yes. What do you work for? I work for Chris. He's around Munster. Nice. And Charlie. He's from Munster. I'm from Munster. Okay, really? Yeah. I live in Munster still. Actually, you're a law student.
Oh, at Valpo?
Yeah, I go to my 3L in the fall.
Oh, that's exciting.
And I work here 1 day a week, and then the other 4 I work at a firm called Regional Life in Chicago. Okay.
And you work out of this court on Sargent?
Yes, I work in Chicago.
Okay. Are you like an extern here, or?
Well, I'm not officially an extern because you're only allowed to do a state trial court externship once. The only exception you need to do the Indiana Court of Appeals, the Indiana Supreme Court, and they'll let you do a second state externship.
You're doing everything in credit for basically.
Right. Obviously, from the resume.
Yeah.
So you get to sit here on Sundays and this, so you
You
can.
know what? Unfortunately, I'll be back in Chicago tomorrow.
That's right.
So what's the basic gist of it? I mean, I heard it, but is it like contract dispute or trade secret?
Yeah. I think you should use that kind of stuff. So, interesting. Probably different than your work in Chicago.
Well, actually, I remember we do contract disputes, corporate labor employment, or defense, municipal law, real estate, or stuff.
Wow. Huh.
I got a taste of almost everything, so I still haven't had a municipal case or a real estate case, so I've been doing that. I've had anything else.
Sounds like a great experience.
And you do like a complicated fix and broad question. Right,
That's my favorite.
That's a means like we go.
Right? I had no idea how much I used it.
what school do you go to?
Oh, I went to Valpo.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I went to Valpo. I graduated in 04. So yeah. I know.
Well, I had the cool side. I had the cool teachers. I had Carver for cram, Chicago for sports. Levinson,
I walked
Conlaw,
18 times.
2, Moscow to Conlaw 1. You ever have those?
Yeah.
First, second on.
Oh. I don't have one.
I thought you were going to go into details.
So you did.
I did, something sure one for certain trial. Yeah.
So you're gonna have to sit in all day on this?
Likely, but essentially for sure, I'll say, because I've been shifted back and forth with family, probate, events. It's good for everywhere. Yes. So you need to get in the adjustment. Graduated in 09. That's right.
And he's employed,
That's a big plus.
Is it to be a whole?
so. That's super bad.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's getting better though. It's better than what it was a couple years ago.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that I got to travel to Chicago and say a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, because I I have good grades, and I interviewed everywhere, and we're supposed to be, they either rejected me, never got back to my list, they just say make me an interview, or they interviewed me, and they never told me what my status was. I applied to be some child and needed to get applied, so I'm like, I have to compete with 2 top 10 schools and 4 other law schools, and you're giving me points, and like, that's the biggest irony. You think it would be the opposite, that they wouldn't get back to Chicago because they have 6 law schools, but here from Canada, we have 1 school they get back to right away. It's like a role reversal. But hey, I can play. Okay. So you want to I hate to get this. I just find it weird.
Oh, sure.
It's 43 and 44.
You could break that so
45 and 44. And, okay, we're about ready to start if you want to get everybody.
Well, these are all here. Do I need to know?
Yeah, I think I just saw somebody go. Okay, I'll.
Kept breaking in action.
Somebody needs restroom, I said.
All of these.
Oh, no. I did right inside. Because I got a memo here ready for Monday. Okay.
I guess I could just leave yours up and do my own.
I don't think I opened up my own either.
Oh, this one's me?
I'm not sure.
You logged in?
Did I?
I don't know.
I don't remember logging in.
I'll close this off.
Pardon.
Nobody's having you.
You know what I'm saying? Well, okay, so if you need to log in, if you need to do something, you don't have access. I didn't have access to small claims, so when I went to put this in you wouldn't let me.
I don't know if I did,
But you probably don't.
even though that they're doing them in advance work.
You do scheduling for them? Like, figure it out, schedule for them?
That was
Well,
right.
again, and try it. Occasionally.
I don't know what time is there already.
She's the giving us for
Because it works in a different mechanism.
Okay, please, I don't want to
Yeah.
cause no trouble. I'm just trying to help.
No, I actually have.
And usually when I try and help them, it's like they say, the road they have is paved with good intention.
No, I really appreciate the offer. It just, it won't react well with me. You told me not to do that.
Thank you. So when you were down in Florida, what were you? You said you were on vacation. Oh, you go racing. I'll find from you. Stand from the public to before the CBS. Okay. Real close. That's the first time you've been there? Oh, that's right. We've been in there. Okay. Yes, that's all the way down. That's one of my brothers. The river goes down. He's just you get some nice comfort from just before you get to the video. It's just it's how you get to the Catholic Church. And there's those that's nice, right? His best friends. And then goes over here. By Marco, what about you? Well, heart attack. Yeah, well, he's going to be there. No, he's he needed some neighbors too. He's almost there. Yeah, he's there. He asked me. But I don't know about you.
Everybody ready? Lake Circuit Court back in session.
You may be seated, everyone. Okay, we proceed.
Frank.
Hi, Mr. Keller.
I wanted to focus your attention as we finish the morning session here on a few documents.